Hey guys, Keith here. Appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. Feeling a little, I don't know, a little down tonight. I don't know, overwhelmed. I don't know. Nothing really, has happened today, or how sometimes you just have a day where you're like, I don't know, you're just not feeling it. You're kind of, you just want to you know, crawl somewhere and just be left alone or whatever. I don't know. I really don't want to be alone. Me and the kids been hanging out tonight. And they had some friends over today, which was awesome. And their friends actually think I'm cool. I think, and which is you know uh, extraordinary for me. I don't get that very often. But anyway, they like my room down here and collectibles and they seem to enjoy it. So they had a good time. They watched a movie together today. So, and I don't know, maybe I got to thinking about, man, I wished I had friends. I don't know, but no, it wasn't really that. I think it's just, I think just trying to find direction in my life, a little bit. But anyway, I want to get off on that. I don't want to waste time there, but just being honest with you, letting you know where I'm at today. So prayers are, always welcomed here. And anyway, I wanted to share this about my wife, and this was something that I wasn't real happy about. Okay, and I was unhappy with her, disappointed in her about it a little bit, but I was probably more disappointed in me because I could have overrode her wishes, I guess you might say. But I loved her, and I wanted to honor her wishes as best I could. Um, but this was one I wished I would have not honored. Okay, and so just so I've told this story before, so I don't want to bore you with all the details. But my wife had cancer for 11 years, and we were married about 11 years before she got cancer, and then she had it for so half of our marriage. She was sick, and just really a lot of I'll have to tell you the story sometime. Maybe I've told some of it, but a lot of emotions going on between, of course, her and me. Just she's going through all these changes bodily and mentally. She went through a couple of depressions that were pretty rough, actually. Um, they were harder on her and me more than I think any of the medical things that she went through. She responded pretty well to chemo. She didn't get sick where a lot of people do, and so but the depression was tough on and like I say, it may have been worse on me. I don't know than it was her, but I know, of course, she was just going through so much stuff. And but anyway, we prayed and believed and hoped and we did see miracles during that time. She lived 11 years. She had stage 4 cancer 5 times. Stage 4, 5. There's no stage 5. Okay, there's stage 4, and that's it. And so she had stage 4 even in 2011 when she got diagnosed. And then she lived till 2021. Now, when I say 11 years, in 2010, she started, having symptoms, and we just didn't know what it was, and was having a lot of pain and stuff. But, as things went on, in December of 2020, she passed away in April of 2021. In December of 2020, the doctor, her doctors came to her and told her she needed to, make arrangements, right? Final arrangements. And boy, that was tough to deal with, even though I wasn't terribly surprised, just because I had seen her condition decline toward that in 2020. And but you still, when you hear it from a doctor, because they try to encourage you and stuff, but when they're just like, hey, you need to, not much time left, and so I wound up calling the doctor and talking to him, and they confirmed all that with me. And so I know we went out to eat that day. That was in December, as I said. And, I talked to her about, talking to the kids, and, she talked to her pastor, and of course, we talked to her parents, but she didn't want to talk to the kids, and I was like, And I get protecting them because I wanted to protect them too. I really did, and I didn't want to discourage them. And I mean, they had been through her, through all of that with us. And of course, they just thought, she's gonna, she would maybe get worse and then she'd get better. And she was, it was just part of our life. That's all they knew of her, was doctors and hospitals and medicine and all that stuff, and her being in a bed or, and just kind of not being able to do much. So, they just, they didn't think about it. And I wanted to talk to him about it, but again, I wanted to protect him. And the week, well, about 2 days before she passed away, she had went to the doctor. What's happening is she was losing blood, okay? And her liver was really messed up from the chemo, really, basically, I think is what happened there. Just her numbers were really high with her liver, and so it was failing, and she was just losing blood, and just wherever, I don't know, they would give her, I don't know how much, but twice a week she would have to go get blood, and it's like, well, you can't keep doing that forever, right? And so on Friday in April, she went. Her mom and dad took her that day, and she was just so weak, and they said, we're just not going to do that. We're not going to give you anymore. And she wanted me to call, get hospice in there. I'm like, I don't need hospice. I'm taking care of you, and I had been for 11 years. I'm your caregiver. I've done everything for you. I don't need hospice. And I really didn't. I mean, they came in and they said, we're going to, this is Friday, as I said, we'll send a nurse out on Monday, and they'll come in. And I was just, I felt like I was shaking my head for real, but I know inside I was shaking my head because I was like, no, you won't, because she won't be here. And that was the first time I'd really, because I was like, praying and believing, she's gonna make it, she's gonna make it. But I just, I knew, and she passed away on Sunday. So Friday, she came in the door and I was like, do you want to go? She was in a wheelchair. Do you want to go to your chair or to bed? And she just said to bed, and that's where she stayed. So I told her, I asked her, I said, do you want me to talk to the kids? And she was like, about what? And I was like, I mean, and I didn't want to talk about it either. Nobody wants to talk about it, but it's just, it's there. And I'm thinking, if I was in that position, I'd bring my kid. I mean, I just would. I mean, I would, if I, found out I only got, a few days to live or a few months, I'd be talking to my kids right away, and saying, hey, I just tell them everything I could tell them, and I tell them every day how much I love them and appreciate them and all that. But I would, I'd want to let them know everything. Here's the bank accounts, and I did some of that even when I went in surgery. I was like, if something went wrong, I mean, here's how to get this stuff. Here's everything you need to know. But anyway, she just kind of like blew it off and really didn't want me to talk to him. And I did take him in to my son's room, took them both in there, and I don't really know what I said. I didn't say, hey, she's not gonna make it or anything, but I was trying to prepare them a little bit. And of course, like I say, they had just seen her that way. That's all they knew. So it just kind of, oh, okay. It didn't really register, obviously, because I didn't really tell them. And that's the part I regret. I wished I would have told them. And we wanted them to, we didn't want to, destroy their hope or anything like that, but it was a preparation. And I really felt like I let them down. And I told them that later on, that I felt like I let them down, because what happened was, of course, she passed away on Sunday. And Sunday we were in there, and she, said her last words. She closed her eyes, and I know the only thing she really said to me is she didn't want to die here. She wanted to die. She wanted to, go to a hospice house or something like that. But, it was, the hospice guy had driven an hour to get some medicine for her to help with the pain and stuff. And so he was gone. There might have been somebody else available, I don't know. But anyway, by the time he got back, I mean, it was hours later, by the time he got back. And so I took my kids into the kitchen and I said, do you want your mom to go to be here or go to a hospice house? She kind of wanted to be, I said, because she's not going to make it. And they were like, what do you mean she's not going to make it? You know, they just were, and I said, she's not going to make it. And of course, you know, they broke down and it was tough seeing them, you know, having to deal with what I had really been dealing with for 11 years. Cause you know, you don't know, you know, and knowing how sick she was at times and how the cancer had spread so many times, you just not knowing, you know. And so it was bad. We wound up, the three of us went in. I got my guitar and we all three, her mom and dad was here too, but me and my kids went in there and just sang to her, you know, and she never woke up, you know, opened her eyes again. But I know she did respond to my son, because my son said, you want us to do another one? And she kind of nodded or something. And we did another one. And so she, you know, we were singing to her when she passed. So there was some sweet moments there, but I felt bad that, you know, I didn't tell her or tell the kids anything, you know, and she didn't really tell them goodbye or tell us goodbye. She just said she'd had a wonderful life and that was really it. And she said, I got to go, but she didn't really, you know, she didn't really talk, you know, I don't know. I mean, it was her decision, of course, but she didn't really talk to the kids about anything or me either really much, but her and I talked a lot. So, you know, it was a little different, but I don't know. I really, you know, I just felt bad because my kids were unprepared. And I know sometimes you just can't be prepared for that, because even if I'd have told them, they might have been like, well, you know, because the emotion's going to hit at some point in time, right? Anyway, so whether you tell them 2 days beforehand or 2 months beforehand or, you know, 10 minutes beforehand, it's still devastating, you know, for young kids and they were teenagers, but young teens. And actually, I'm not sure my son was. I don't think he was quite a teenager yet, but he was, you know, getting close. But anyway, still young and very much in love with her mama. And so that's just one thing. You know, if I had it to do over again, I would have just not told her, and I would have told them and said, listen, you know, if she makes it, then great, you know, but I just want you to be prepared in case she doesn't. And I could have done it in a way that it wouldn't have been, you know, actually it was going to be devastating. It was going to be hard to hear either way, but at least they would have been prepared, you know, more so than just hitting them with it, like say a few minutes beforehand, and them kind of being really, you know, shocked, because like I say, they had seen her sick for their whole life. You know, that's all they remembered. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you. And if you're ever in that situation, I hope you're not ever in that situation. But I just feel like I say, if it was me that was leaving this world, I'd want to talk to people that I loved, you know, and you know, let them know how I feel about them, and let them know that just how much I love them, and you know, all that. I'd want to talk to them, but she didn't want to do that. So anyway, that's just one of those things. Everybody has their own ideas about that, but you can let me know in the comments what you think I should have done, or you know, I realize, you know, right now it doesn't matter, you know, it's already a done deal, but sometimes we can take, you know, our past mistakes and you know, we can change things in the future, maybe in different ways. Hopefully, like I said, I don't have to deal with that situation again, but maybe, you know, just anything else where, you know, you feel like you need to tell somebody something and you go, I don't know if I should or not, you know. So, but anyway, I hope you're having a great evening, and I'm sorry to be it's kind of a little down one tonight here, but anyway, I'm not terribly down. I just, you know, it's just one of them I'm kind of like this, you know. I'm not up here, I'm not way down here, I'm just kind of right here. But anyway, I hope you guys are way up here and in the heavens, just having a good time and having a good night and all that. But I appreciate y'all so much, and if you could give us a thumbs up on this and subscribe to us, and we'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks.